So what I want to do is just talk a little bit about how the skill tree works, and then we're going to work on what's actually kind of our first assignment, which is documenting part of the skill tree and then putting it on the Open Lab. So we're both going to be looking at the skill tree and learning how to use the Open Lab and just make a simple post on the Open Lab. So that'll be something that we're going to be doing a lot of throughout the semester. So we want to make sure to go over it now. And so yeah, let's get started. So when you're looking at the skill tree, this is essentially our syllabus and also like your grade basically. So you're going to get a certain number of points based on the number of labs that you do. And you don't need to do all of the labs to get an A. You probably need to do, about between, I think some labs have different numbers of points. So it kind of depends on how you focus on things, but it may be somewhere between 10 to 15 labs, depending on what you choose. And there's a few other factors in that, and we'll go over those. But let's take a look and get started. So as I mentioned before, on the progress page, this is where you're going to see your actual progress. And as you guys turn in assignments, I'll update on the back end, and you'll be able to load the page and see what progress you've actually made and how many points you have. And there's a little grading scale down here. It's pretty small, but let's see, I can zoom in, right? I don't know if this is actually going to translate to the video, but you can see it right there. So this is a scale I used the last time I taught the class, and it seemed to work pretty well. It's based on basically making a few different paths through the class and trying to balance them out. And so an A is 35 points or more, B is 30 to 34, C is 25 to 29, and D is 20 to 24, and F is under 20. So it's pretty straightforward. I'll be, we'll talk about this each week and kind of look at how much progress we've made and what might be reasonable and stuff like that. If you click on the plan button, this will take you to another page. It's exactly the same thing. The only difference is this part you can actually save in the database. So you can make a plan that you want to do, and then you can come back here and look at it, and you can compare it to what's on the progress side. So let's take a look at the actual content. So each lab, it has a certain number of points that it's worth. So the early labs are not worth a ton of points, and they get to be worth more as we go through the semester. And each lab has a little description. So if you click on the title of the lab, it's going to open up this lab page. And if you want to look at this in a full page section, you can click on Open in Tab, and that'll open a new tab. And what the lab has is some instructions and some things that you have to do, and then some links to various different things. And so this first lab is basically like what we're actually talking about. It's getting a little meta right now because the first thing to do in this lab is log into the Open Lab, which we all just did. And the second thing is to open the skill tree, which is where we are now. So the first lab is actually to kind of just set these things up and create a plan for the semester and then publish that plan on the Open Lab. So you can see what's required from the lab and what the basic steps to do it are. We are going to be doing all of these in class. So each class I'm going to go through a couple different labs or some different demo that incorporates the different things that we need in the lab. And so we're all going to start in the Apprentice tier, and there's 3 labs in the Apprentice tier that kind of get us started with the skills that we need to work on in the class. So when you click on completed for one of the labs, or if I do it on the back end, when you reload it, that's what you'll see. So if I refresh the page, you'll see that the first lab is still completed. So it shows you other labs that are now available. So I'll talk about this more in another class, but there's a whole group of labs down here that are called research labs. These are 1-point labs that are basically like a reading or playing a game or doing something and writing up a quick little blog post about it. So I'll talk about that more in depth in the next class. But I basically added this because I used to assign a lot of readings and pretty much no one would do them. And so I don't really feel like doing that anymore, but I'll give you bonus points if you do the reading and then you give a little report to the class. And a few people actually did that last semester, and it actually really helped their grade when they did it. So those are some options. I'll talk more about that in a future class. But what we really want to go to next, once we finish the Open Lab intro, is our art intro. And we can see the description of the art intro here. We're just going to create an icon for our OpenLab profile and upload it to the OpenLab. So it's pretty simple, but it's going to be a very simple intro that we can use to get started using the Pascal art editor. So once we complete the art intro, we're going to move on to the Godot intro. And that's the last one in our Apprentice tier. That's the last one we'll all do at the same time. So the Godot intro is our game engine. And so we're basically just going to learn how the game engine works, make a very simple game with some very basic components, and then we're gonna take some pictures of the game and then post it on the OpenLab. So there's a lot of steps to this one, but it's actually pretty easy. And we'll do this probably next Tuesday, depending on how fast we go through everything else. And so that's the end of our Apprentice section, and you'll see when I finish that, it opens up a whole bunch of new options. So this is where things get a little bit more complicated, but you can collapse these different sections if you want to focus on one at a time. So once we finish the Apprentice section, you may say, I want to focus on programming, so I'm going to go to the developer section, or I want to focus on art, so I'm going to go to the artist section. And when you do that, you'll see the lab that's now available. You can read about what you do in this lab. This one has a video from last semester. I'll replace that with a video for this semester once we get there. And since we're in the planning stage, we can look at what a plan would be. So we can say we want to do some character design. That opens up some more labs. We want to do some character animation. That opens up a few more labs. So some labs you have to do after you've finished another one. And you can see also our total points changing up here at the top. And we know that for an A, we need 35 points. So that's going to be our goal for today, is make a plan that gets us to 35 points. So we're focusing on art. So we're going to make some tile sets and platforms. We'll make some rewards, some obstacles. We want to add some scenery, and we definitely want to add some backgrounds. Okay, so we're up to 23 points just by doing some art labs. Okay, so that's pretty good. You'll notice that some labs have a little button for collaboration here. If you do collaborations with another student, you get a free point on the lab, basically. So for example, if I make a character animation and another student says, oh, I really like that, could I put that in my game? You both get an extra point for that lab. So it's basically like free points. I'm really trying to incentivize collaboration because it's something that people avoid, but I also really don't like being in a group, being forced to be in a group, because I know that's not always the best experience. So trying to use points in your grade to incentivize collaboration. Okay, so I've got 23 points. I don't really need any of these other two art labs, so I want to start thinking about how I can finish the game. So one thing that we're all going to do later towards the end of the semester is actually publish our game. So that's actually worth a lot of points. It's kind of weird because it's not that hard, but it's worth more points to incentivize you guys to get there. So if we're going to publish our game, we're going to get 5 points for that, just for exporting it. If we publish it on itch.io, we'll get another 5 points for that. And if we do some user testing, I'll get another 5 points for that. And now I've got an A. You can add more if you want. You might say, I really need some good sound in my game, so I'm going to go and add some gameplay sound effects and background music. That's okay if you want to be ambitious. You can add more options. But once you're over that 35-point threshold, you'll have an A. So once you have an idea of what you want to make for the game, we want to basically, for the lab, we just want to take a picture of this page and publish it on the OpenLab, just to say kind of, this is my plan. But you can change it. You don't have to stick with that plan. You could say, you know what, I don't actually want my game to have, tile sets or whatever. I can go and just take this one out. So you can update it throughout the semester. You don't have to stick with your original plan, but it gives us something to first take a look at what are all the different possibilities of things that I can add into my game. And then also, what do I need to do to actually get an A in this class? So let's take a picture of this and post it on the OpenLab. So I'm going to open up the options that I chose. And I don't think they're all going to fit on the screen. So they don't all quite fit on the screen. So I could zoom out a little bit, or I'm just going to actually take a couple different screenshots. So I'm going to close these. I'm going to start with just this. So I'm on a Mac. And taking a screenshot on a Mac works a little bit differently than taking a screenshot on Windows. On a Mac, it's pretty easy. What I'm going to do, let me turn on my little key caster thing. If I hit Command Shift and 4, it's going to bring up this little target. You might be able to see it on the screen. And I can actually like stretch that out to take a picture. But another thing I can do is hit space. And this turns my target into a little camera. And now I can take a picture of the window that I'm in. So I'm going to do that. And you're going to see it's going to create a little image. And it's going to go onto the desktop. Eventually it'll go over there. It like sits there for a second if you want to like delete it or whatever. Okay. So then I need to take a picture of sound design and publishing. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do Command Shift 4, hit space, and use the camera to take a picture. And so now I have 2 images on my computer. I have the beginning of my plan and I have the end of my plan. So if you're on Windows, you can't do this. You can use the snip tool or you can use the print screen button to take a screenshot of your browser. And you can add that. You can also, if you've ever used the Xbox game bar before, that's another easy way to screenshot applications on your computer. We could go over how to do that in a bit if you need help with that. But you basically just need a screenshot. And so once we're done with that, I'm just going to do the end now. And then if you have questions, I'll stop the recording and we can go over questions. So I've got my 2 screenshots. I've got my plan set up for what I want to do this semester. And so now I want to publish my first OpenLab post. So I'm going to go back to my OpenLab page over here. And I'm going to click the plus button and choose post. And that's going to bring up my post editor. So if you've used WordPress or other blog software like Tumblr or Squarespace or something like that, you may be familiar with writing a blog post. The WordPress interface is a little confusing because there's like stuff jumping all over the place, but it's pretty easy to use once you get used to it, and it's what we have from BMCC, so it's what we're going to use. So the first thing we want to do is add a category. So I can look through the categories by going like this, and I'm on the post section. If you don't see this menu, you can click on this little settings gear and then choose the post section. And we want to add a category. So we're going to go to categories and you can scroll through or you can just search. So the one that we're working on is actually our OpenLab intro. So I'm going to choose that category. And now I'm going to add a title. So I'm going to say my skill tree plan. And then we just have to add these images in here. So it's pretty easy. I can just drag and drop. And you need to get that little blue line. Otherwise it won't work. But that's pretty much all you have to do. So if I go here, if I don't have that blue line, when I drop it in, it's just going to open up in a different tab. That's not what I want. I need to get this little blue line that appears. Sometimes it doesn't appear. Let me click on the page first and then... Okay, so if I get that little blue line, I can put it in there. The other way to do it is to make a block. So I can hit this plus button. I can choose image. And then I can drag here or I can upload. So I can click upload, go to my desktop, and then make sure this is the first one, and click open. And so there's my first screenshot. And so then we can add the second screenshot. I'm just going to drag this one down here. Oh, I think I have to make a block first. Yeah, that's what's kind of frustrating about WordPress. Okay, so I need a new block. I can add this in. There we go. So that's my plan. And I'm just going to type a couple sentences explaining what's in the plan. So I'm going to say this semester, I want to focus on making art and graphics for my game and add some sound effects and background music. If you have an idea for what you actually want to make as a game this semester, feel free to talk about that as well. At this point, you may not know, and that's fine. We're going to work on that this semester. And then at the end, I'll just say, I definitely want to publish my game and send it to people to test and give me feedback. So that's pretty good. That's good enough for what we need to do. I'm going to click on the preview button, and this is going to open up a preview of my post. So before I publish it. And so this looks pretty good. It's visible. It's a little blurry, but because the image is shrunk down a little bit, but it's visible enough that we can get a sense of what we're looking at. And that looks pretty good. You can see in the bottom here, there's this comment and grade section. So the way that basically when you write a post, it's going to send me a notification that you published something. I'm going to take a look, and then I'm going to make a private comment, and I'm going to say either great job, I'm going to add this in the back end, or I'm going to say this looks good, but you need to do a little bit more to get credit for this one. And so you want to make sure to check that comment before you assume that the assignment is done. And so once you've done all that, that looks good. I'm going to go back to my page, and I need to make sure to actually publish the post because that's what's going to send a notification. So when I click publish, it's going to think for a second, hopefully not too long. Sometimes it's a bit slow. Okay, so it's going to think for a second, and then we can click to view the post. And there it is. It's also going to show up on the main posts page, so everybody in the class can see it. And we'll go through and look, once a week at new posts that have been made, so we can review everybody's work and talk about what's on there. Once you have an account here, also, if you click, your name will show up at the bottom inside the blog authors. And if you click on your name, it'll show all of the posts that you made. So as we add more and more throughout the semester, we'll have basically like a little devlog of everything that we created to work on our game. So that's basically how that should all work. I'm going to stop the recording now. One last thing. If you need to make a change, so if you wrote the post, you're going to see a little edit button. If it's somebody else's post, you won't see it. You can't edit other people's posts. But if you're logged in and you look at your own post, there's an edit button here. If you spelled something wrong or you forgot something that you wanted to add, you can click edit. You can come back in here and say, I just wanted to add a little smiley face to the end of my post. What you have to do is make sure to click update. Otherwise, it's not going to save the change that you made. So I'm going to click update. And if you want to preview it again, you can preview it again. But once I do the update, I can go to the link. So under here, I can click on the permalink and make sure it got updated. Oh, and it converted it into an emoji. I didn't realize that was going to happen. I guess that's a new WordPress thing, but that's fine. I like that. So yeah, that's everything. I'm going to stop the recording now. And if you guys have any questions, we have like 15 minutes left in class, so we can go over any questions or any technical issues that you might be having.